I am a huge pain in the ass. Sometimes the greatest relationships are built out of conflict. So no, when that game was over, we won our first game against a good team. It was a friendly, but it was a good team. And to draw 1,700 in the rain, that's the point where you can breathe and say, okay, we might have something here. I was on the opposite side of the field, walking towards the bleachers when our boys came out. So the way you come out in soccer is you line up and the two teams walk out together. When they walked out, they had to walk almost all the way across the pitch to get to where they line up, and you're facing the stands. Their fans showed up also, don't get me wrong. Sure. But dude, we took that place over.
What's up, guys? Lift and Love. Lift and Love here. Where did you pull this question from? Lift Love, crochet, we out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Lifting Love podcast. You are awesome, and today we have an incredible episode. But before we get there, I want to thank our sponsor, Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. Shout out to Lake Hickory Pub and Marina for allowing us to film our episodes here. All their social media links will be down in the description below. And lastly, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button here on the channel, because 70% of you watching this are not subscribed. We're going to have to fight about it. But enough about me, enough about our sponsors. Today we have an incredible guest. I don't know if you could see or not. Look at that. Got some swag before the podcast. It is the co-founder of Hickory FC. It is Eric Levin. Thank you so much for coming on, man. How are you?
What's up, man? I'm so glad to be here. And I'm listening to you do the intro, and I'm just thinking about kudos to you, because there's so many people that talk about doing things. They talk about social media, they talk about content, they talk about doing a podcast. You did it, and you do a great job. So kudos. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Came with this. I got a flag over there. Came with so much swag.
I brought you some swag. Come on now.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I got to get, you got. Yeah, I know you'll sport it. You'll show us some love.
100%. Shout out to Hickory FC. But before we get to Hickory FC, I know we're going to talk a good portion about that. I want to talk about you. The man behind it. I know there's obviously more people involved, but the man behind it. Where does your story start? Is like, bring us back. Like, what were you thinking right out of high school that you wanted to do? And obviously, it's come to. Oh yeah, there we go. He's marinated. I love it.
I was one of those that I didn't think about what I wanted to do, and I don't know if that's because I didn't have maybe the mentorship I could have or should have had. And I don't say that there weren't mentors in my life. Maybe I just didn't accept it, or I wasn't listening, or maybe I didn't ask for help when I should have asked for help.
Yeah.
After high school, I was a wannabe athlete. I got hurt when I was a senior in high school, so I wasn't going to play at the next level. Yeah. And by the way, not soccer. This was more of a basketball dream that I had. And all I knew was that if I just kept working, that something good might happen, meaning if I work, I'll get a degree. If I work, I'll get a job. If I work at that job, I'll find new things, or I'll move up, or I'll move out. Yeah. But I didn't think that far into the future. And when I look back, I wish I would have done a better job of that. I knew that I always loved sports, though. I don't just love sports from the fan perspective. Yeah. I think that the things that sport provides communities, youth, families, you think about the families that sit around and watch an American football game on a Sunday, or spend time together going to a Charlotte FC game or going to a baseball game. Yeah. Like, there's memories there, and there's things that you learn. So I knew that I always loved sport, and there reached a point in my life where I had an opportunity to get involved in sport, and I'm so stoked to be doing what we're doing at Hickory FC.
But this wasn't always what you were doing.
No.
So again, going back out of high school, college, like what were you doing? And like, did you ultimately knew you wanted to get into business, and obviously now with sports?
I was an athlete, like I said, and after I got hurt, I had to figure out a way to help pay for college, because there was no scholarship, there was no grant money coming with being an athlete. And somebody told me that you could make $40 an hour as a personal trainer. And I thought, well, I'm a gym rat. I'll go get the certification and start charging people $30-$40 an hour to do programs for them, and help them get in shape, help them train for a marathon, whatever. Yeah. And So that was my first small business. That was the first LLC I ever started, right? This little business called, I think it was called Fitness Synergy or something.
Let's go. And, that's a fire name.
Hey, man, I got some ink on my shoulder to prove the whole thing. I got that covered up, by the way. That was a bad tattoo job. Advice, don't let the tattoo idea marinate before you actually throw some ink on your body. But
give the business a year.
Yeah, good call, right? Get past the startup phase.
Sure.
But I did that for a little bit, and then out of college, actually kept doing that. Moved to New York to work on a master's in kinesiology. I thought I was going to go into something sport and fitness related. Maybe work for a professional team in some capacity.
So in every step, it's been sports driven is the goal. Like working for a big organization. Obviously, with the injuries, couldn't play sports, but at least being a part of sports, whether it's fitness, strength and conditioning, whatever that looked like.
But the funny thing was I didn't think about I want to be in sports. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking I need to figure out a way to make money and not hate what I do, right? And so
and the correlation just made sense. You didn't hate sports.
I didn't hate sports. I was in a gym anyway, so I might as well make some money while I'm in the gym.
100%.
And then it turned into a business that was as good, if not better, than getting a, quote, regular job straight out of college. So I went to New York, started a master's in kinesiology, hated school. I didn't like school. I'm not a great student, good 100%. Enough to graduate and do all that, but I didn't like school. I liked doing things. And so I worked in the city for a little bit at a gym called Equinox, which is a pretty well-known international gym up on the Upper East Side. It's got other gyms throughout the country. And did that in New York for a bit. And then my girlfriend, who I had been dating for almost 5 years, and we were now distant, she is from Hickory, North Carolina. And,
whoa. How'd y'all meet? We got to bring that back.
College, UNC Wilmington, yep,
Wow.
on the coast. And so
and not just like Hickory native, like born and raised here?
Born and raised here. Hickory High School, the whole nine. That's
Wow.
right, yep. So met her at UNC Wilmington. As a lot of stories go, my life was doing this, and then I met a girl or made a decision with a girl, and things changed. And so we decided to get married, and we moved to Hickory. I think I was cocky enough at the time to think I could figure out a way to be successful anywhere.
Yeah.
And this town was a real kick in the gut for me. It was, I didn't feel like I fit in. Hickory back then, and maybe even today a little bit, there's old money in this town, furniture and hosiery and fiber optic, and I wasn't connected to that.
And what year are we talking about?
This would have been 2000-ish, late 90s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this is kind of at the point where things were starting to slowly move out, kind of, because like Hickory does not look like it did 25, 30 years ago.
No.
It used to just solely be like furniture or manufacturing. Now there's a lot more space for businesses to come in. So you're talking about a time where, it's one industry and one industry only, realistically.
Well, and you had overseas monetary policy that was impacting local furniture and hosiery, and so that was starting to change. You had big companies like Corning who were really struggling with their stock, and so that was looking like it might start to change. And I ended up getting a job doing renovation, construction work because I had to. I had to figure out a way to make money. And so here I am, college graduate, a little bit of master's under my belt, still going to the gym every day, but I'm not making any money doing that anymore. And I'm working construction and trying to provide for a young family. I mean, you just had your first. You know what that's like. So we just had our first at the time. Abe's 25 now. Wow. And and that was the beginning of my Hickory experience. I mean, total transparency, I didn't like being here at first.
Wow. How long do you think it took for you to like really go, all right, like I could see us staying here. I don't ever think of I want to leave. Like this is home. When did that happen?
Well, first, Mama's got to be happy. And if Mama's happy in Hickory, then we're going to figure out a way to be happy in Hickory. And so I never thought about leaving. I just was struggling to connect, right? And so I think a couple things happened. One, I got a different job, recruiting. So I became a recruiter in the mortgage industry. And that was one. The other thing was, as our kids got a little bit older, I think you start to learn the value of small towns, right? And I was on a call one day with a client. I was leaving the office at, say, 6 o'clock, right? And I'm on my cell phone, and he's on his cell phone. I told him I was walking out. He said, great, I'm walking out also. We'll both talk to each other on the drive home. 3 minutes later, I'm pulling up in the driveway. He's in Atlanta.
Oh, my goodness.
He hasn't even gotten out of the parking deck yet. And so he said to me, hold on a second, you're home? And I said, yeah. He said, Eric, I'm not even out of the deck yet, and I've got another hour before I'll get home. And that was a moment where it hit me, the value of time, not only with your friends and your family, but the businesses that you might want to get involved in. And that was the moment for me that I said, this is the right spot for me. I need to start figuring out a way to become a little more connected in the community.
And then, so what happens there? Because I know you do get the platform we were talking about right before we got on. That is your business, correct? SaaS?
SaaS, yeah. So
SaaS.
I'm one of the co-founders of a technology company called Model Match. So we took our experiences as recruiters in the housing industry, and we transitioned that into a tech platform. That, not to get into that because it can get confusing, but it's all of the data and intelligence that comes with housing. So real estate transactions, mortgage transactions, and we bundle that into a package to support business development for users across the country. Yeah, so that's what we do.
How scary was that to get into?
Oh, man. Well, I can tell you, you have a family. Most of my friends are on a trajectory where they've moved up the corporate ladder 3 or 4 steps.
Yeah.
2007, 2008 hit, which you're a young guy. So I
know about it.
Okay, so it certainly impacted your parents, I'm sure, and you in direct and indirect ways. But the crash happened, and we were the crazy guys that said, what a perfect time to start a new company. And
they always say in chaos, it's the best time.
It is true. It's like, if you invest, that, buying low is the best time to buy, and you never know when that moment actually is. Well, it's pretty clear that was one of those moments. We were all going broke. Everybody was struggling. And you asked, what was so hard about that? Lots of things. But number one was, we went a couple of years where we barely paid ourselves because the money was going back into the business. And but those are the things that you have to do if you're really going to set out to build something, right? Versus maybe have somebody have already built it and take. And I'm not saying there's a right way or the wrong way to do it, but for us, it was ground up and it was tough. And there's been tough moments throughout. Software's a competitive space, man. And that was actually that was a business that led to the technology. We didn't even roll out the tech until 2016.
Oh, so this is like a long time in the making. This isn't like overnight.
We were doing more consulting and services work back then for our clients. Wow. And then that led to this idea of, instead of us doing it for them, could we build a tech platform that will help them be better at doing it themselves?
Dude, that's actually incredible.
Well, what's funny about that is the tech then puts a portion of what you were doing completely out of business. Like what you just did was you're building a solution that replaces a service. We were providing the service and monetizing that. Mm-hmm. The solution, which is what SaaS is, right? The services as a solution is what SaaS stands for, if you didn't know that.
Service as a solution.
Yep. That the solution starts to replace the service because the customer can now do more of that service themselves and save money. But you as the tech platform can scale that. If I'm working with you, I can only work, there's only one of me and that's all I've got to give you. Mm-hmm. But if I can scale me, I can now work with 1,000 of you. And that's what the tech does.
Was that a venture that you were scared to get into? What was it that was like, man, like, I'm not going to do this corporate thing. I'm going to do my own. Like, because that is a scary jump to make.
Yeah.
Especially in that time.
For me, that's probably an easy question to answer. Are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
This is it's a minor curse word. I am a huge pain in the ass. I don't sit still well. And I'd rather have some control. I don't mean full control. I love having partners, and we can talk about that later. I think the value of partnerships, the right ones, like a good marriage, makes you 2, 3, 4 times better than you could ever be by yourself. But I'm not interested in being told no and not understanding why the reason is no. So if you think about it as an employee, your protection is that you come to work every day and you've got this job that when you walked in is somewhat guaranteed. You're going to get a check at the end of the pay period, and you don't really have to know what's happening behind the scenes. It could be madness, but as long as you're getting that check and you're being paid commensurate value for the work that you're putting in, you're good with that. And that's honorable. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not good at that. And I think I learned that relatively early in my life. And so none of it was, it's funny you ask, was it ever scary? In retrospect, yeah, super scary. In the moment, though, I just don't think we took the time to think about whether or not it was scary. We took the time to say, okay, we're going to starve for a minute. So let's start figuring out what it's like to starve again. And it wasn't the first time. We'd already starved a couple other times.
I think that's a thing that a lot of people take for granted, right? It's like you had every possible excuse that you could have used. You could have probably had those CVS receipts where it's super long and all the coupons. You could have had one of those of just excuses.
Sure.
But instead it was like, well, what if we bet on ourselves? What if we take this opportunity to actually further our lives instead of just working for somebody else and actually building something that's ours?
And if it fails, and the little moments along the way where it does fail, and it will fail, because your success is full of a ton of failures. Like, that's just the way it is. I know why and what. And so I can do a better job of not doing that again, right? Yeah. Other than all of a sudden a strategy changes. I'm not really sure why that strategy changed or what it was that got us moving in a left-hand turn or right-hand turn direction. I would rather know. And man, I'm old enough now where it's too late. Like, it just is what it is. This is what I do. This is the way that it is. I'd be a terrible employee for somebody else. Yeah. I don't know what 40 hours a week means. I don't know what 9 to 5. It doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah. There's something that needs to get done. Let's go get it done. And truthfully, I'm also very aware that I can't do it by myself.
Yeah. Because I think that's one of the things, like, also makes me a bad employee is, like, if there's something that can be more efficient, like for me, like social media is all about efficiency, right? We're just talking. You have a bunch of content. Let's get it posted. Let's schedule it all out. Let's make this like across the board. We could post for the next 3 months and not have to worry about it, right? But like, there's a lot of jobs and companies that don't know efficiency.
Right.
That's why a lot of businesses fail.
Sure.
I mean, it's just a known fact.
Yep.
If you're not efficient and if you're not productive and you're not making your revenue mean something, you're going to fail as a business. That's literally the whole point, right? You need the customers, you need to have a service or a product to sell them, and then you actually have to make money doing it. Those are the 3 pillars of business, right? And it's like, the efficiency part is what kills me. And that's why I'm such a bad employee. Because like, if something's not efficient and it's not getting done right, my thing is like, how do we fix this? I'm all about solutions. And it's so crazy too, because going back on what we were talking about off the podcast was like, you were like, why should I say no, right? Why say no when you could say yes? And I think that also comes with that mindset of like, everybody wants to say no first. So what happens if we say yes? What's the worst can happen? It doesn't work out. It's a fail or a mistake. Okay, cool. Next time we have something to learn from at least, right? So I think it's just so cool to hear your mindset, and I love talking to people about it because, again, going back to the excuses, you could have had every excuse in the book. You could have been, I'm just going to go up the corporate ladder. I'll just suck it up and work a job. But you took it head on, and you're like, I'm going to make this thing mean so much. I think that's just. If more people looked at it that way, there'd be a lot more successful business owners.
I think there's also like the question of, people like to say, what is your why? Mm-hmm. We hear that a lot in motivational speak. And sometimes I think it becomes very corny. But if you really have your blood, sweat, and tears into something, you never have to ask that question. You know what I mean? When you're having a bad day or you don't feel very good, and it'd be easy to take a day off or throw in a PTO day or whatever, you generally don't do, like, you wouldn't do that with your kids. You wouldn't do that with an activity that you love. You'd probably say, well, I don't feel good, but I'm still going to go play golf if that's your thing. Yeah. Well, if your business is connected the same way, you have more days that you show up. And sometimes success is just the cumulative value of all of those days that you showed up. It might not happen as fast as you. By the way, I don't even know what success means. Like, everybody defines the word. What is it? Somebody says, like, you seem really successful. Or maybe people say, you seem like you're not successful at all. Well, is it because you think you know how much money I make? Is it because I seem happy? Is it because I seem unhappy? Like, what? How do you define success? And I don't think it's the same for everybody. And so you got to kind of figure that one out yourself. But this journey for me has definitely taught me that there's value, or not that there's value, but the value in the people that you really trust, that you really aren't afraid to bleed and sweat with, kind of. And I don't have a ton of those people in my life, but I know who they are, and they know that I'm there for them. And some of those people are part of the businesses that I'm involved in, and I'm super fortunate for that.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way, especially when you're a leader in that position and people look to you for the answers and the support. Having that mindset and that mentality is just next level, because you actually care about it. You actually want to make it happen, instead of being in corporate where you have to wait for answers. And you're like, no, you're like, just if it can be fixed, just fix it. Let's do X, Y, and Z, right? You're so hands-on with it. I know you mentioned you also work with some local nonprofits and stuff. You're on some boards, I believe you were saying.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that? How did you get involved in the community?
Well, and that was probably the other stickiness that happened with this town. The home that we lived in for 15 years before we moved about 5 years ago was 3 houses up from the Hickory Foundation YMCA. And my boys, I got them involved in sports really quick. And so I became a frequent at the YMCA. I would play basketball up there. My boys would play sports up there. And we had something negative actually happened in the neighborhood. And I needed to have a difficult conversation with one of the leaders at the YMCA. And it was a bit of conflict. That meeting went so well, though, that it was a moment where I thought, I need to get more involved with what they're doing here at the Y, which, by the way, there's a lesson. You know, sometimes the greatest relationships are built out of conflict. It's not when stuff's always going well. It's ask me who you are or who I am on a really bad day. And then that's, you know, if that's as bad as it's going to be, we're probably going to be good together. But the other one was that I was boarding a plane once, and my son, I think, was 5 or 6, and he was signing up for soccer. We were signing him up for soccer at the Y. And I'm walking onto the plane, and my wife calls me. And I'm that annoying guy now that's walking down the aisle of a plane on his phone. You know, everybody's trying to get settled. And I'm like, hey, Mama, what's up? I'm about to sit down. And she said, I just need you real quick. There's a checkbox on this form that says, do you want to be a volunteer coach? And I said, absolutely not. I don't want anything to do with being a volunteer coach. And let me tell you a piece of advice my wife gave me, which I'll never forget. She said, okay, well, before I let you go, let me say one thing to you. If you're not going to volunteer to be a coach, you are no longer entitled to an opinion. So you will sit on the sidelines and you will keep your mouth shut. And I paused and I said, check the box. Right? Because she knows how I am. And so that was the beginning of my partnership with the Y. I'm now the chief volunteer officer, the head of the board of the Catawba Valley YMCA.
Hold up.
We just skipped all the way to that, right?
First off, shout out to your wife. That was incredible.
Oh,
she sounds exactly how my wife would be. Like, don't ask for something. Don't give us your opinion. Mm-mm. Don't be the peanut gallery if you just don't sit over there. I think that's so awesome. And I assume, I mean, now in your position now, you obviously did well and you loved it and you were able to help out a lot. And you obviously got on the board as the head of the board. Like, what was that experience like?
I joined the board. Oh man, it's been a long time ago. I've been on the board now for a long time. So local board, moving on to corporate board and executive board, and then eventually becoming the chief volunteer officer of the board. I just think that you know, the YMCA is Young Men's Christian Association. Well, I'm not young anymore. I am a man. We have lots of women though that are super involved in the YMCA. I was raised Jewish. There is no J in YMCA, right? And I joke around that you know, you have these letters, but then you have this mission, and it's just a wonderful mission. I just don't think there's that many nonprofits that do as much as what the YMCA does, whether it's, you know, working with seniors, diabetic prevention, whether it's subsidizing costs for those that can't afford camps for their kids or childcare for their kids. The list is so tremendously long that when I thought, where do I want to bolt on where I feel like I can do the most? That's why I bolted on with the Y. And I'm just really proud. If you haven't been to the new construction,
it, right?
Oh my goodness!
I know,
boy.
I saw pictures.
it is state of the art. It's something this town should be really, really proud of. And the amount of money that goes back into the community is truly dramatic.
I genuinely didn't know that it was an acronym. I just thought it was one. I don't know what I thought it was.
Well, you know, years
It's
ago,
crazy.
so they went to this, the why.
Yeah.
Because that's what you see now from a marketing perspective. But, you know, it's a fantastic mission. It's one of those that, you know, during COVID, you know, we stayed open. We did remote learning. We brought teachers in to be able to keep kids moving forward. I could go on and on and on, man.
Yeah.
It's a really, really special mission.
And I love that, you know, the transition to Hickory FC community, right? I think that, and part of your story, it seems like you fell in love with the community, and that's kind of when all the positives started to happen, right? You had that, like, not negative, but you were like, no, not really gelling with it, and all of a sudden you get into the community, now it's like, I love this place, right? You don't want to be anywhere else. For Hickory FC, we could get into that. When did this start, right? When did this seed get planted as far as, man, Hickory's a nice place. Let's see what we can do out here.
So I hired a guy named Tom Dealey, and Tom is my co-founder at Hickory FC. Tom is super young. He's 30 maybe now. And I hired him at the software company. And he had just come off being an All-American soccer player. He would get very upset if I was using the word soccer because he's from Oxford, England, and it's
Football.
not it's football,
Yeah.
right? So he was a All-American footballer at Lees McRae. He did play semi-professionally. Probably could have gone back to the UK and play. I mean, he was that good and played professionally. He came to work for me, just kind of like my story. He met a girl.
Usually all stories start out like that. How did y'all meet, real quick?
Tom and I?
Yeah.
Man, I think he applied or something.
Oh, just randomly.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a pain when it comes to sometimes hiring people.
Yeah.
And my head of product, who's the tech guru, right? He met Tom first, or in the midst of our interviews. And I remember he came into my office and said, "What are you thinking about? Just hire the guy. You know he's good." and he was. Tom's a pit bull. He's an absolute pit bull. Super, super competitive, like me. He and I are a lot alike. Really smart guy. And I love that he had that athlete's mentality because it was going to serve him well for what he did with me. So he worked with me for about 3 years. And during that period of time, he came to me at one point and said, "Do you think that a semi-professional football club would work in Hickory?" And he did really the work on paper and just put together a really informal business plan. We looked at it and we shelved it for a minute.
What year was that first business idea? If you had to put a year on it.
We probably started talking about it around 2021.
Okay,
maybe.
I mean, so not that crazy.
No.
Ago.
It wasn't. Yeah. No, it wasn't that long ago. The city walk wasn't totally finished yet. Some of that was still coming together. Some of the businesses that have now moved in weren't there yet.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at it the first time, I think my response was, "This looks like a cool hobby. I would totally support it if you did it. I would go to the games. I'd wear the gear, but I don't think I'm ready. I think I'd rather wait and see what happens with the local market first." So we did. And then it really quickly, you could see what was happening in downtown Hickory and the surrounding community as well. I was watching what was happening with the YMCA. We were expanding into Lincoln County. We're expanding into the Gastonia area. So this city's expanding. And I said, let's bring it off the shelf and let's start this. So we applied with the MPSL. We started 828 FC LLC, which is the business name that Hickory FC lives under. And then I went to some influential people in the community and just verbal NDA'd them, right, and said, "Don't tell anybody, but we're thinking about doing this. Do you think this is the dumbest idea ever?" We did the same thing with our software company, honestly. We got with the tech guy, and we spent money to bring him to a conference one year. And we said, "We have this idea. We had already storyboarded it. Come with us and tell us if this is just a terrible idea before we go spend money and lose our shirts on it. Let us know what you think." Software, same thing happened. He said, "This is a great idea. We could set the market." What happened with Hickory FC, very similar. People influential in the community that I trust thought it was a great idea. They gave me a number of things that they thought I needed to be careful and look out for. And then a few of those people became partners, and they're now partners in the club. And so, It was a really cool evolution. One quick story, and then you could pepper me with more stuff because I love to put this on blast. What I'm about to say. The MPSL, who we love, it's our league, and we're partners in the league. One of their leaders, when we went official with them, and we had time to pull out and not lose a bunch of money. But when that clock was ticking down, one of the leaders of the MPSL said, just a couple things to prepare you for. You will lose money year one, and you'll be lucky to win 2 games.
Oh, boy, was he wrong.
And I think both Tom and I thought to ourselves, okay, that's like locker room material. You put that quote up on the wall. And as far as losing money goes, our goal year one was never to make a bunch of money. We wanted to make sure we didn't lose a bunch of money. We wanted to spend money to create as good an experience as we possibly could for the community.
100%.
But we were not about to only win 2 games.
We can lose $1 million, but if we lose
Well,
every game...
I don't know about losing $1 million. Mama might not, she and I've been okay with that one, but this community showed up, and I think that's why, number one, the business was healthy in the first year, and it's also why our boys played the way they did. They played for this community.
And it's so crazy because, so I don't actively watch soccer, but the buzz. So I've never felt the buzz for soccer like I feel around this area. It's so cool to see because soccer's an amazing sport, and like we were talking, easily accessible. You don't really have to have the greatest skill to start playing. You don't really need a lot to start playing. You just need a ball in a field, maybe a couple of cones or imaginary goals, whatever.
Right.
But the community aspect, I think, was huge, right? Because there's so many amazing soccer programs in a 20-minute radius, 30-minute radius. But real quick, I'm genuinely curious. How did Moretz Stadium come about?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So when Tom and I... So one of the things you have to list is facility. You have to get your facility approved. And the first thing we did was schedule a meeting with Lenore Ryan, with their athletic department. And I don't remember if it got moved or the schedules just worked where I was traveling that day. And I hated to miss that meeting. So when we were prepping before Tom went in on his own for this meeting, we said to each other, look, we're going to go in, and we're going to show them what we're doing. And I know that's not going to be negative, but we're going to ask for Moretz. And they're going to laugh us out of the room. And then we'll move on to plan B. I'm not sure what that is. Is it the soccer pitch? Is it a practice pitch? Do we hit up the city and start talking about some of their fields? And
So literally just we're going to shoot for the stars. If we miss, we land, shoot for the moon, you miss, you land amongst the stars.
But you prep, right? You have a really, really good preparation. You talk about the statistics in the local community. You talk about what you've done. You talk about the idea of the logo because there's some real cool community stuff about the logo. That's right. And then you shoot for the stars, man. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no. And then either we can convince them to say yes, or we move on to plan B. And so when he called me when I was out of town, he said, well, they didn't laugh me out of the room. And it was really good timing because I think that and LR has been a wonderful partner, just fantastic partner over there. And not just the school, but the people, the leadership.
There are some incredible people who work in LR, and that does wonders for them because there's amazing people and they're in the community, which is also super important.
100%. And a little plug to Jake Berry in the athletic department at LR. He's been a fantastic partner to work with. He's also had great ideas, and we give each other ideas. I feel like they've become elevated thanks to us, 100%. And we've become elevated thanks to them. But Lenore Ryan recognized that there weren't a lot of eyeballs on that campus during the summertime. And so as long as we agreed to terms that made them feel comfortable that we weren't going to break anything, then we were off to the races. And first year was a real proof of concept. It was a real show me year. I know that they were, let's see how this goes kind of thing. But as the season went on, the floodgates opened and they really made more and more accessible to us.
So what was your mindset or what were your thoughts going into your first season? First game, home opener, Moretz Stadium. you're probably in your head. First off, what are you thinking? And then second off, knowing how well the community showed up, how did that feel?
I mean, the first thing I'm thinking is, of course, it's raining all day long, right? We couldn't have gotten a sunny day for our first game.
Not sunny and 80 degrees with a slight breeze. No.
No, you've got wind blowing tents over, and you got sideways rain, and the beer was delivered in the wrong section of the stadium, and the concessions provider didn't have enough staff to get the beer moved to the proper side. So I'm calling all of our ownership and all their sons and my sons, everybody get your rain jackets on and start scrambling. Here's the cool thing about home games for me. So we just played an away game in Charlotte this weekend. I am more anxious at away games than I am home games. Home games, I feel so busy and so needed in a weird way, even though I'm kind of not. Like, I create problems that don't exist just to try to put problems out. Like, I'm anticipating things. At away games, there's almost nothing to do but think about what is the outcome going to be. Are we going to get 3 points today, or are we going to have a challenge?
And you go to every road game too?
I missed one last year. I will not miss a road game this year. Not. And
dedication. That's what it's about.
And our partner, we travel, and our fans travel too. We could talk about this because I definitely want to talk about last year's championship game before we end this podcast.
Oh my goodness.
But honestly, before that first game, there was. I never thought that people wouldn't show up. And we sold season tickets. I knew that we had a decent amount of season tickets sold. I knew that we did real well on the kits and people buying the kits.
But that many people? You were not expecting that?
So the game, it's 30 minutes before kickoff. There's some tailgating going on outside in the parking lot, which was cool because this is nice. But it's raining. And there's nobody hardly in the stadium yet. 30 minutes before kickoff. 15 minutes before kickoff. There's still hardly anybody.
But hold on. What is going through your head at that moment?
Is anybody going to show up? Now, I didn't think that much. I really didn't. But I thought it a little bit. It creeped in there because I started. This is a big old stadium, boy. Like, at this point, having a couple of bleachers might have looked a little bit better. Although I never want that.
Maybe we should have just went to Henry Ford Park.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. We could have hidden the lack of fans. Here's what I've learned about our fans. They don't come in droves early, but all of a sudden, right around kickoff, the line just started pouring in. And I'm looking, because I was standing on the other side, and I'm just watching this steady stream and steady stream and steady stream. And so to think that we got, I think it was about 1,700 in the rain for something that people still weren't quite sure what this was all about. Also, school wasn't out yet. LR was still in session. There was a lot of stuff going on early in the season. So no, when that game was over, we won our first game against a good team. It was a friendly, but it was a good team. And to draw 1,700 in the rain when the NPSL average is way below that, I was like, okay, that's the point where you can breathe and say, okay, we might have something here.
What game throughout the season did you have that aha moment of like, holy crap, this is honestly bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
And it has the potential to consistently be like that. What game, like, is there a moment throughout last season where you were like, oh shit, this is it?
I think it was our third home game. We had about 2,500 come. And not only 2,500, man, they were engaged. They were engaged. They showed up wearing the colors. It was red and black everywhere. They were engaged. You could tell they were learning our players. The other thing that happened this was a surprise, by the way. This is one I didn't anticipate, and it was super cool. It was probably by the second home game when the boys came off the pitch. The kids gravitated towards the tunnel where they come up. It was a fire hazard. I mean, you couldn't get past there. There were so many kids waiting for an autograph that we eventually named it Autograph Alley. Deluxe Printing is a sponsor of Autograph Alley.
That's
and
awesome.
The boys, it takes them 30 minutes to get to the locker room. And they take their time to sign autographs, sign kits, say hello to the boys and girls, parents, people my age, and take pictures with them. It was that second and third game where, number one, the engagement with the team, and then 2,600 people showing up on a Saturday night. That's when we knew we had something. That was when the moment came where I thought, next year, let's see how close we can get to filling this place up.
So before we talk about the championship, the first time I heard about Hickory FC, I played pickleball a lot, and used to, trying to get back into it. A whole long story. But I was playing pickleball, and they started talking about soccer. I'm like, playing pickleball. What does soccer have to do with anything? And they were like, they're just talking about it. Oh, the new team. I'm like, there's a professional team out here. I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently, for the first season, I don't know if it's still happening, but a couple of the guys needed a place to stay.
Yeah.
And there were people in the incredible people in the Hickory community that opened their house to these strangers, essentially, right? These people coming in to play a sport into their house. How does that happen? That's incredible.
So
That's incredible.
This is one of those stories where don't listen to when people tell you no. There are teams throughout the country that don't host. They don't do host families. Some of them don't even provide accommodations at all. So they can only recruit from, a 50-mile radius around their town. Now, in some cities that works. Like in Charlotte, you have a ton of players to pull from.
For sure.
In Hickory, that's not going to work. In Atlanta, that absolutely works.
Bigger city, you can get away with it.
You can get away with that.
City,
that's
tough.
right. So with us, we worked an accommodations deal, but our players can't move into those accommodations until the third week or so of May. So what do you do with them the first 3 weeks of the season? And so we went to the community and we got host families. And man, okay, so I know you said they don't know them, and you have to, these young men that they've never met before. We vet them. By the way, big props to Coach Rubio and Coach Morales, who are also the LR coaches. Carlos Rubio is the head coach. Jorge Morales is the assistant coach. They're a team. They're two of the most wonderful human beings I've ever known. As intense as it gets. Very, very sensitive to doing right by the community. So they expect that from their players. They also expect super high energy and leave it on the pitch and go win a game. Yeah. So we didn't need to worry so much about how these players were going to be vetted because we had a coach a coaching staff that does that. But yeah, man, we've got families that open up their home for 3 weeks, some longer, because some of our players stay with those families the entire season. Not many, but some of them do. And we try to give as much love back to those families as we can, but they give so much more love to us than we could ever give to them. So to those host families, and then I throw out one other thing. We do these adopt a player deals where other families, before every home game, do a care package that's in the locker room waiting for the players after the game. So they have snacks that are their favorite snacks. They have sometimes home-baked goods, they've got gift cards, they've got drinks, and a nice little note that says, hey, we're going to be watching you tonight. We love you. Number 10, you're my favorite player, whatever. So they get this love from the community, which is why year 2, Coach Rubio had a problem recruiting because a lot of players want to be here now. And it's not just because we're winning. It's because of the love that they're getting from this area.
So you go from, dang, how are we going to find people? Okay, let's do these accommodations. Let's figure it out. To literally like, hold up. We might need to put a little pause on this because you're getting so many people interested. And like that has got to be such a rewarding feeling, though. But let's jump right to the championship.
Sure.
Incredible season. First off, your thoughts on the season as a whole, and then go right into the championship.
The season was great. We had a little bit of a dip midway where we lost a game, tied a game we shouldn't have tied, and it really hurt us in the standings. We, at one point in the season, were number 6 in the country, and you figure there's about 90-plus teams. So a first-year team, an expansion team, no history of recruiting, we had no proof of concept. We couldn't show players, hey, this is what we've done in the past. Number 6 in the country. And then we tied a game, and we lost a game. And so now we're kind of kicked back a little bit, right? Yeah. A couple things then come into question. Are you going to make the conference tournament? Are you going to have any home games? We went on a little run at the end to position ourselves nicely for the tournament. We won a home game to then make it to the conference championship eventually. Yeah. The conference championship was in Boone against App FC, who, quite frankly, is the 900-pound gorilla of our conference. They've been around now for 5 years, I think. They have a fantastic coach. Dale is a wonderful coach. They have a committed ownership group, and they have a wonderful community. That community, Boone, supports their team for sure. So it's a natural rivalry.
100%.
Right? I mean, you want to go beat the Sasquatch, right? That's what we wanted to go do. But we had to go do it on their turf. Okay, you're a content guy. Have you ever seen the show Friday Night Lights?
100%.
Okay.
I feel like every sports guy has seen that.
Right?
Yeah, it's a great show.
This game was like something out of Friday Night Lights. We had lost to App FC earlier. They beat us pretty convincingly.
I was going to say, was it bad?
They beat us pretty convincingly, yeah. And so we went into this game. They had beaten us twice, once in a friendly, once in an official game.
Okay, real quick. I'm not that big of a soccer guy.
Friendly. What's a friendly? So a friendly, to the fans, it's not that much of a difference. It doesn't count in your standings.
Oh, so it's like an exhibition, or it's just
and you call it a friendly, right?
Okay, gotcha.
It gives a chance for both teams to have more games. But against App, there is no such thing as a friendly,
yeah,
right?
Your rivalry. Gotcha.
But for the standings and the points,
is it like a preseason game in like a traditional sport?
But
it doesn't count towards.
You could throw in a friendly in the middle of the season, which we did with them.
Got you.
Okay.
Got you.
So, but they had beaten us twice. Once convincingly, once a little bit tighter. So game 3 at their home pitch, 1,500 fans from Hickory showed out.
No, 15. That's an hour away.
All decked out in red. We have a supporters group called the 28601.
I see that.
Shout out to the 28601. They're fantastic. The 28601, along with our fans, everybody was wearing red kits, swinging scarves. There's flags. There's smoke bombs. Like,
let me ask you real quick. When you show up to the game and you see 1,500 Hickory FC fans, what is going through your mind?
Well, it was a little emotional. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like, and these people are people that I've seen at a lot of games, and so I feel like I want to go up and hug every one of them and say thank you for taking a night to spend gas money and food money and ticket. It's not beyond me that you're making an investment to come to one of these games, right? No. But I tell you what I thought. I was on the opposite side of the field, walking towards the bleachers when our boys came out. So the way you come out in soccer is you line up and the two teams walk out together. When they walked out, they had to walk almost all the way across the pitch to get to where they line up, and you're facing the stands. Their fans showed up also, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But dude, we took that place over. And when we came out and the drums are playing from the 28601 and our fans are swinging the flags and the banners, I looked at my partner and I said, we just won. I mean, I was stressed out during the game, don't get me wrong, but I felt like in that moment, our boys looked into the crowd, and there was no way we were going to win that game. And not only did we win, the energy that our fans gave to the boys was clearly in play. But Coach Rubio and Coach Morales and his staff, they had a game plan that was App just wasn't going to win that night. It was something. So I bring up Friday Night Lights and you being a content guy. That could have been that night could have been part of a documentary. It was really something special.
I was going to say, was there any thought of maybe doing an opening season documentary?
So my son, Tate Levin, give him a little plug. Tate is in school, he's in college, and he wants to get into film, right? And I had told him at one point, man, maybe we ought to have you just hang out and shoot video and do like a little documentary or something. But it was never a serious thought. You're thinking about so much and making sure you don't mess things up and make sure you get other things right, that in retrospect, that would have been something awesome. But there was never any serious thought. But we have some really good video content from that game.
I was going to say, I think we could talk after. I think we could put something together.
I might be able to get you some content to make you do a little mini documentary.
I think that would be so awesome. Couple other things before we wrap this up.
Yep.
I know you did mention the logo. So what is the significance of the logo?
Yeah, so we tried to pay homage.
If you want to. I don't know if you want to use it. I don't know if you need to point at anything.
I'll hold up. Sure. We tried to pay homage to the history of this town, right? And so the tree represents a tree that stood near what was the original train station. So if you know where the Hickory Tavern was, what it was called then, became a train station. And now where the station is, where we all go get our wings, and where Old Hickory Brewery, right, is,
yeah.
That's where that stood. That's where that tree stood. Well, that tree's not there anymore, but the train tracks came right through that station, right? And that's where really this town was built. That's where lumber started coming in. It's where the furniture industry started being built in the late 1800s. And so we wanted to pay homage to the tree, to the tracks, and then the roots. We wanted the roots to be exposed and visible, just to represent the strong roots and the strength that exist in this community.
So why the colors red, black, gold?
Well, so gold is not part of there's not a part of our picture. This is a little shout out to the conference championship. All right. that's a little bit of.
So red and black is the
red and black
colors.
are the official
Gotcha,
colors. That's
gotcha,
right.
gotcha.
One was we just like it. We think it's an aggressive. It's kind of an aggressive combination, red and black, right? The other thing is you've got LR, similar colors, Hickory High School, similar colors. So if you think of a town like Pittsburgh, you know, the university, similar colors, the Steelers, similar colors, the Pirates, similar colors, the hockey team, the Penguins, similar colors.
If you kind of think about it, I think every team out here, even the Crawdads kind of have a little bit of the red and black going.
I've got a really cool Crawdads hat that has that's right, those colors, and then a little bit of blue, which our training kits this year are Hickory City blue. So we've started to incorporate some blue from the town also.
So, man, I feel like we could have like a 3-hour podcast.
We could go long form with it, right?
I love the energy. You talk about community. You talk about when you started, you brought this idea up to people. How incredible has it been for the partners and sponsors and all the people who help Hickory FC get to where it is today? Because like you were saying, this isn't like a money thing for you. This is a community thing. How impactful has it been to have all those relationships really elevate Hickory FC and what it is and what it's going to become?
Yeah, great question. It's wildly rewarding. It's also it also keeps you on point. We don't want to fail for those that have invested in our success. And so when you think about the sponsors that you see on the game day kits, you see the sponsors on the training kits, you see our sponsors that are on our social media, our game day sponsors. We have a kids zone this year with a sponsor. We're adding one more sponsor later this week probably. Those are our partners. We don't view them as vendors. We don't view them as revenue generators. We view them as our partners. And so we take that real seriously. And because of that, we don't want to fail for them. For our fans, look, man, there's nothing that gives me back more juice than watching all the kids sitting on the sides of the wall and rooting on the team. But we take feedback real seriously. And as much as I'm real stoked about where we are and the partners are happy with where we are and we can pat ourselves on the back with year 1, year 2, where we are, we don't do that because we're not done. We're not done. There's more on the vision board. There's more on the roadmap. It can always be better. Yeah. And we're not going to stop because I don't know that you ever hit that ceiling. I'm not sure that it exists.
It's definitely not. And then once you get there, it's going to be like, well, the next thing, and the next thing,
That's
and
right.
the next thing. Real quick, last two here. Hickory. I think Hickory is in this. I still feel like it's in an infancy stage, but it has grown so much. I personally feel, and this is me personally, that in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to be the next Charlotte. We might not have the skyscrapers. We might not have the big buildings. But the influx of people within 1 hour of Hickory, North Carolina is incredible. Incredible. And it's only growing, right? They just did the TV show, World's Greatest City. All these different things. The City Walk, absolutely beautiful. It's right across the street here. Incredible. You're connecting the entire city to one place. Hickory, for you guys, when all this first started, was there ever another place? And Hickory specifically, when you got into the community, now that you lived here for some time, what are your favorite things about Hickory?
Man. I guess it's, I always like coming home. Maybe that's the sign of, you're in the right place. When we travel, we went over to the UK for a week and we had a really good trip and a good time with the family. I was so happy to be home. I was just happy to be home. Yeah. Hickory affords so many things when it comes to business, commerce, arts, culture, nonprofit support. But it still feels very small. It's still, there's things that you can accomplish in this town that are just really hard to accomplish elsewhere, because the person that can help you is probably just one layer removed from somebody that you already know.
1,000%.
And in bigger cities, you don't really get that. I also agree with you that we're going to see a lot of growth, but I think Hickory has the capability of maintaining that small town connectivity that we just talked about. And funny enough, I think a local football club is part of that. I look forward to 20 years from now when there's new fans still coming into the Hickory FC family, but you got those old timers. They're like, I was there when we first did the first brand reveal. I was there. You'll never know it the way that I know it. You know what I mean?
Don't remember that first season, boy.
I remember when Jorge Jimenez hit that first goal and the crowd went crazy. But when we're telling the old timers are telling those stories, there'll be 20,000 people in the stands, even though there was only 1,700. It'll be totally embellished at that point.
Straight hyperbole.
But whether it's people going to the pub and talking about it, or talking about it at the barbershop or at the bank, I don't think Hickory's going to lose that feel anytime soon.
It's so funny in talking to you. All this time, you've never brought up money once. You've never brought up revenue. Most people, when they have something that could and will be so lucrative, that's usually something that's talked about a lot. You have such a love and a passion, not only for this community, but for the team. I think that is so invaluable, because there's always money to be made. You're going to make, there's all these different things, right? But you haven't even touched on that. And it's so funny because I don't even think that's a reason you do it. The love you have for the sport, for the fans, for creating that entertainment aspect. It just shows. You're just an incredible person, man. I think what you guys are doing is incredible.
Well, I appreciate that. Here's the truth, though, when it comes to any business. We think about money all the time. We think about money every day, right?
Yeah.
I was looking at P&Ls and balance sheets this morning and putting together some reports for my business partners. It's nice, though, when you can look at the money as a barometer of things that are not just that ownership has to put a certain amount of money in their pocket tomorrow, because that's not on the short-term roadmap at all. So we can remove that and make decisions in a very different way, if that makes sense. And I think we were talking earlier that if one more dollar comes in today, the majority of that dollar is going to go right back into the club, or it's going to go into things like, raising money for Hurricane Helene support and selling 828 t-shirts, where we're giving away the proceeds to Samaritan's Purse and some other organizations. We have a game on Tuesday, the 20th, where we're going to be raising a lot more money for Hurricane Helene again and giving that money back. And so, man, ask me in 5 years or 10 years. I mean, I feel like if you do the right things, you work hard, you elevate the experience, and you do right by your partners. And I don't mean business partners. I mean also your fans. They are our partners. Your staff, your players, the community, your sponsors, that you'll look back in 5 or 10 years and say, okay, do we want to talk about whether or not it was a financial success? I mean, ask me then.
I know I keep saying last couple questions, but I got one more. What's the ultimate goal for Hickory FC and the value that it brings to the community?
I think the ultimate goal is to be the premier football club. Maybe not top tier, maybe not MLS is what I'm talking about. But when we talk about, at the moment, the foundational tiers of semi-professional soccer in this country, that we are the one that everybody talks about. And I'll tell you, it's buzzing already.
I mean, just from the way people talk about Hickory FC in this community is great. The content that you guys put out, you can see the energy, the love. It's incredible. I'm so excited. I can't wait to come out to my first game.
Yeah, come, boy.
It's going to be incredible and electric, and I hope we can work together on some other things.
I think we will.
100%. Last two things, social media, website. How can people reach out? Maybe they want to be a sponsor. Maybe they want to buy season tickets, a jersey. How can they go about all that?
So hickoryfc.com website. Look us up on Instagram, Hickory FC. Look us up on Facebook, Hickory FC. We are on X. We don't do a ton on X, but we are on X. Usually that's game day updates.
Gotcha.
But Instagram, we do a really good job of updating promotions that we're doing, games. Same thing with Facebook. Season tickets you can get on our website still. Not too late to grab season tickets. We do sell game day tickets from the website as well. So, yeah, those are the best ways to come see us. And, look, come see us Friday night. We've got a game at Moretz. Tuesday night, the 20th, we got a game at Moretz. Check out the schedule. And if you're not sure, just get out to a game. It's not expensive. It's a cheap night out. It's a lot of fun. And even if you don't know much about soccer, a lot of our fans don't. It's a good time. And before you know it, you'll be repping the black and the red.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to the game.
Let's go. You're ready.
And then, like I told you, how we end every podcast. I know you've been marinating on this question. For someone watching this right now, what is the best piece of advice you can give them?
Yeah, movement forward with anything. I think that we live in a world now where there's a lot of youth and young professionals coming up where we talk about mental health is a big thing, depression, self-doubt. Watching motivational videos is not going to do it for you. I'm just saying, I'm not saying don't watch motivational. I watch motivational videos. It's fun. It's like when I was a kid, you'd go see Rocky and you come out and you're going to train tomorrow. And then you wake up the next day and you don't do any push-ups. Like, I mean, it's just the way that it works.
Yeah.
The move forward, do something, be physical. When in doubt, usually the answer is not to take a break. It's to just do something, and maybe something different than what you're currently doing. But the value of energy forward, I just can't put enough of a value, not only on the potential for success, the potential to win, the potential to pull something off that you can be proud of, but also the potential to just simply feel good.
Incredible. I seriously can't thank you enough for your time. I know how valuable it is. I know how busy of a person you are. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. This is incredible. I got the gear now. I got a flag that's going in my office. You have no idea. I'm going to text you a picture of it.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to be in my office. It's going to be. I can't wait.
I knew you would. And by the way, thank you for having me on, and great job everything that you're doing. I think we have a future together probably.
Oh, 1,000%. I love this community. It's given me an opportunity to do everything that I've ever wanted. It doesn't feel real. I feel like I'm living a dream, and it's all because of Hickory. I would have never been able to do this back home where I'm not from here. I lived somewhere else.
Yep.
And I would have never been able to do this. The people here, the community here is incredible. But first off, thank you so much for your time. Hickory FC. If you haven't, go to a game. Just go to the game. All the games are going to be scheduled. The schedule is going to be in the description below. I'll have links to all the website, the social media, everything, so you can follow Hickory FC and everything that they're doing. Incredible people, and just incredible energy. I think for me, energy is everything, and Hickory FC has got it going on right now. It's buzzing. So thank you so much for your time. Lastly, again, Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet, for allowing us to film our episodes here. And lastly, hit that subscribe button. Just hit it. It's right there or right there, wherever it is. I'm looking at myself backwards. Just one of those over here. But most importantly, guys, until next time, lift love, crush hate. We out.